Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today? It is officially 15 months since I played these games, and I feel like there are a lot of things that I want to talk to you guys because I spend too much time in this game. So without further ado, in this video I just want to talk about maybe just sharing, building and stuff, because I feel like I've gone all the way that I probably building quite a lot of cast of characters here. To be honest, there are a lot of things that I want to talk about Genshin Impact recently, especially about the recent interview, the endgame content basically, the lack of endgame content, and basically the recent hot discussion about why this game is so dry. 3.0 is a solid version, but 3.1 is just super dry in terms of contents. Is even drier than the Sumeru's desert itself. So before we going into that, I'm gonna talk about that in a moment and just tell you guys what I think about it. You just gotta see my overworld team. I have Kole, Amber, Thoma, and Kokomi. And a lot of you guys probably gonna say, if you guys playing this game long enough, oh, you have such a weird team comp. But this is actually my best team comp so far, and I'm gonna talk about it in a moment. But first, let's talk about characters one by one. So it's a Kole, technically the first Dendro character, and which very flexible building so far. And yeah, this is probably one of the greatest builds so far. Not the greatest, it's like a humble build. 59 crit rate, 123 crit damage, and a massive amount of energy recharge because I use her ult a lot. Refinement R3 by the way, guys. So this is such an amazing bow. I feel like Favonius War Bow and then Sacrificial Bow are the go-to energy recharge weapon, but I feel like Favonius is much better since the passive is basically quite broken in terms of energy recharge. The reason why I use the emblem artifacts here is because at the time, before 3.0 release, the Dendro, the Deepwood Memories artifacts are not even released yet. So I feel like the closest I could get for the best character building basically is the Emblems of Fate, because this is probably one of the most universal artifacts in the game, and I believe this is a pretty good Dendro damage with 61 elemental mastery. Crit rate doesn't matter that much because I have this crit rate hat circlet that is formerly from Thoma. I use it for Thoma before. Yeah, this is actually a really good artifact set. And I have C2, and of course one crown for Kole. Not really sure if I want to crown all of this. I have some crowns, but I kinda saving that for Kusanali Nahida, the Dendro Archon that will release in 3.2, and almost friendship level 10. I use her a lot. She's like the main reason why I put her with Amber now, because they are a friend, a really good friend. And we're talking about Amber a little bit. There's nothing much. There's no changes at all. Energy recharge is like one of the most important things in any character build, but Amber doesn't need that because her talent is just 40 energy costs and doesn't need that much. C4, just amazing. I can throw 2 Baron Bunnies now, because the only way you got her cons is from Standard Banner and from Star Glitter Shop. That's coming twice a year. If I don't get any Amber from the Standard Banner, that means it needs to be next year for me to have a C6. And yeah, this is as much as I can get. If I can get C5, that will be massive improvement because of the Baron Bunny buff. And overall, it's pretty good. Now the reason why Amber is still in the team comp is not just because I'm an Amber simp, But it's because of the Virgin reaction, the Dendro, Hydro, and Pyro reaction. She's only have 80 elemental mastery, but somehow she's still doing like 8,000 to 9,000 Virgin damage per one core. It's not that much, but she's still a secondary choice for my Virgin team, because the main carry of the Virgin team is Thoma with 521 elemental mastery. In the overworld, he can do like 18,000, 18k damage for Virgin damage. You don't need crit rate, crit damage that much because Virgin damage doesn't count the crit. And I got the Favonius Lance. The reason why I'm not putting the elemental mastery weapons is because I just need the energy recharge really. Energy recharge is much more important than, let's say, just a pile of elemental mastery, because his talent, it costs 80. The energy cost is massive, so I need energy recharge anyway. I could swap this to the catch, but the catch is for Xiangling at the moment. There's nothing changed with Kokomi, by the way. But the fact that I realized that she has 200 elemental mastery is a massive thing. Still prototype Amber R5. No constellation, still the Ocean Hued Clam artifacts with HP build most of the time. I could always swap to the Hydro damage, but I feel like the HP is just more... it's more humble. It doesn't matter though, because she's a healer. Even with a full HP build, she's still doing quite a hefty amount of damage. Triple Crown, of course. Not really sure if a big Kokomi sim enough to get her C1, but I feel like it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, we're gonna start with Keqing. Keqing has been my #1 electro character, electro damage dealer. But as you guys can see, she has 0 elemental mastery. The reason why I put this 4 in a comp is, despite no elemental mastery, it's just Keqing is just too strong, because I built her for such a long time. And Fischl is the main carry for the elemental mastery, but we're gonna talk about that later. There's nothing different. It's the normal humble build. I feel like if this is a Wonder Trope instead of Gladiator Finale, would do a little bit better. Or just a 4 set of Thundering Fury, by the way, which is really hard to get. Okay, let's go for Lumine, the Traveler. The newfound power of Dendro really buffed the Traveler the heck out of it. She has really little elemental mastery, but it doesn't matter because Dendro element is basically applying elements. The enemies and the Executor, basically the damage dealer, is actually the one that doing more the damage. The reaction is called Aggravate or Catalyze, and I got this new weapon. I decided to build this new weapon. It's not the best, it's energy recharge, but it has a passive of the Dendro reaction stuffs, so it's still really good on her. So at first I built the Traveler as a physical damage dealer, but it doesn't go that well in a team composition because physical damage basically not fun. It's not fun to play, and I decided I changed it into Dendro damage. It's not the best Dendro cup ever, because finding Dendro cup is just not easy. What's next for Fischl? Again, not changing that much except the fact that she has 300 elemental mastery, Stringless, Wonder Trope, and double Wonder Troop and Thundering Fury, which is a super humble build. No attack, no elemental mastery, no crit damage. It's basically a wasted potential. But you know how it is really difficult to get a decent artifacts in this game. I could almost crown this. I have 4 crowns, but it's just not easy to farming books, because I feel like farming books is such a waste of resins. So one of the most interesting part of my team is having Sayu built up, jacked up. Look at this, 400 elemental mastery. Crit rate, crit damage doesn't matter because she's a swirly girl. The last time I used in the Wolf Gravestone, but suddenly I got Skyward Pride from the standard banner. So I feel like, you know, Wolf Gravestone, cool. Got more attack, which means more healing. But she's lacking of energy recharge. So that's why I desperately need the energy recharge. Of course, with the VV artifacts, with the elemental mastery and healing bonus, because in the end she's a healer. Constellation C2, I really want more constellation for Sayu. People tends to use Sucrose or Kazuha or Venti, especially Kazuha, because Kazuha is just so famous. It's just so easy to use. If you have Kazuha in your account, you're basically cheating. All the overworld just becomes so easy. Even the Spiral Abyss is so easy. Speaking of Spiral Abyss is just so easy now. Especially with the release of Dendro, everything's just feels effortless. Even Spiral Abyss. I'm gonna talk about that later. We have Ganyu. Of course, one of the most broken archer in the game, with 215 damage, crit damage, and a humble 49 crit rate. Not that much, but as a cryo character, she does more crit rate than any other characters, any other elements basically. And I sometimes conflicted within this and this. Ganyu will did more damage with this, and the elemental mastery will do really well for Ember more than Ganyu, because there is no reaction between Cryo and Dendro anyway. But at the same time, the energy recharge is really handy. This is stronger for reaction and this is stronger for the raw damage. The same stuff with Ayaka though. Ayaka is just a super broken cryo character, and I am lucky enough to reach 220 crit damage. She got the highest crit damage in any other characters in my account. I got the Blackcliff Longsword from the Star Glitter shop. You don't need over 50 crit rate for a cryo character, because they just having this a cryo resonance, the way you can just increase the crit rate by itself by just applying cryo anyway. So Yelan doesn't have that much changes. I'm using the Fading Twilight, which is the event bow, and Tenacity of Millilith and Heart of Death, Zero Constellation, and Crown at her ult. She's a really strong support, and I highly recommend, if you like struggle playing in the game, if you see Yelan in the banner, pull her. You're not gonna regret it. Yoimiya, I have a mixed feeling about Yoimiya. I sometimes using her in like a very big boss battle, like one single target, and group her with Yelan. She just not really excel that much in terms of AoE damage, area damage, and she's also have lacking of crit rate, but that doesn't matter that much because she's shooting really fast. We're using her normal attack anyway. I think I got rushed for like the very early time I play this game, and not using it because it's very niche for normal attack, and it's decreased the charge attack. Artifacts, the Shimenawa, not that great I believe because there's lack of crit rates, but overall pretty niche. Scrolls, not much things going on, just a normal build. And Yunfei, I think I put aside Yunfei for a moment. Yunfei is really strong a pyro damage dealer, and the hardest part of using Yunfei is because she is rely on the charge attack. The clunky part of using Yunfei is it costs a lot of stamina. Whenever you use Yunfei, you spam the charge attack, but it makes you really hard to like dodge enemies. If you don't have stamina, you cannot dash, you cannot run. Yunjin, I don't know why I built Yunjin. Should I put her on level 90? I don't know. The good thing is she is a really good support. with the defense build. She got this massive amount of defense, 2154 defense. Let's talk about Geo a little bit. So why is Geo is such a strong solo element but not strong, team element? Because all they do is just making shields, but she is overall a pretty solid support, which every time you use her ult, it buffs the normal attack. It's probably really good at Yoimiya and Yelan, I believe. The Yoimiya and Yelan combo is really good with having Yunjin around. Problem is, I built up all of this character. Diluc, Ningguang, Kukishinobu, Xiangling, and Diona is not built up until Xiangling. So all of this character until Xiangling, from this to this, are pretty much a competent characters. But just there is not much place that you can play on this game. So there is a recent interview with website GameSpot that being interviewing the Genshin Impact dev actually, and one of the question is about the Spiral Abyss and it's about the end game. Because if you are strong enough in this game, if you spend more time building up, you're strong enough for Spiral Abyss. And I feel like Spiral Abyss is like the only hard thing in this game. The overworld is no longer challenging. You feel like you're Saitama. You're too strong. And I kinda understand why Saitama feels so bored all the time, because being too strong is not fun. And one of the questions that intriguing a lot of people, spark a lot of discussion in the subreddit and the community of Genshin, is this one question right here. The Spiral Abyss is the truly true endgame content for players at high AR. Are there any plans to release new permanent endgame content in the same vein as the Spiral Abyss? So the question is not asking for more Spiral Abyss, they're just asking for any type of contents combat based that's the same as Spiral Abyss, or mostly just combat based game. And the answer for that question is from the devs is Spiral Abyss is one of the most effective way for players to test out their party composition and combat strength. The first sentence is actually pretty weird out, because if the Spiral Abyss is the most effective ways to test out a party composition, to test out combat, then where are you gonna put this combat? Like which one is the real combat? Because Spiral Abyss is the hardest dungeon in the game. If we design another type of permanent endgame that is similar to Spiral Abyss, it might end up creating excessive anxiety for our players. Not everyone is interested in mass grief. And this is what makes the Genshin community makes meme about, is because the excessive anxiety for players, which for in a serious context, I don't think it's giving anxiety. So Genshin, you have this really cool reactions. So are you expecting players to use this cool combat capabilities, elemental reaction and stuff? Why? I don't think it gives you anxiety. I don't think it gives player anxiety. If it is talk about FOMO or fear of missing out, this game is designed massively out of FOMO because it's a gacha games. And you might argue that yeah, this game is a gacha games, it's a waifu game, it's a casual games. I feel like casual gamers and hardcore gamers can coexist in one game. In any RPG games or FPS games or any battle royale games or any games really. People who play Minecraft just for the sake of building and, you know, relaxing, casually building stuffs, casually mining diamonds. And then there's one type of players that doing the speed run, doing the PvP, hardcore stuff. It can coexist in one game. And Genshin has this some unique event that involve combat, but it is just limited time event. They actually have an ability to make an endgame content based on combat, but they chose not to, which a lot of people scratching their heads of wondering why. They could actually do it, but they chose not to do it. which is interesting, right? And I'm not telling that Genshin should add more difficulty, but I feel like the players from day one needs to be respected because they are probably too strong nowadays. Day one characters, day one players who are basically having an AR-60 right now. Almost all of their characters are built up, and of course all the whales that paying the games. I'm not a whale, but I've still spent quite a hefty amount of money in these games, from Walkins and stuff, from buying this Kaching skin. If I could give one suggestion to Genshin, is to add more co-op things, or add one Spiral Abyss that is hard enough that it is required co-op. The second suggestion is, if you have an event that allowed player to build their own domain, how about you have an event that allowed player have their own Spiral Abyss? How about that? So let's player make this Spiral Abyss thingy, not the real Spiral Abyss, but basically their own domain, their own challenges, and they can share the challenges to other players. And I, as a player, can also use the challenges from other players, the enemies that they design. So I feel like there are a lot of ideas from the community that I feel like they just don't listen to. But I don't know, it's a Chinese game. Probably they gonna listen more on the Chinese side of the player base, but I'm not really sure about it. The reason why I keep playing this game is because, first, the waifus, of course, and well, mostly of the design of the characters. I want them to release more skins like this. Skins like this are amazing. It took time to design this skin. I knew it. It's not easy to design a skin in a game. And this is such an amazing skin, by the way. And like this facial skin is just gorgeous. How about we have Traveler skin? How about we have Sayu skin? How about we have Amber skin? Release more skin. I believe I will buy some of them, because skins is a work of art. But despite that, I still love the games because the graphics are amazing, the music are amazing, the lore, the storyline. It's not an empty storyline like many gacha games out there. It's not an empty storyline, it's a really interesting story for me. And I feel like I'm still gonna play this game because some of my friends are actually enjoying the game. But for now, I think that's it. I feel like this game has a lot of potential, but those potential are just wasted. And I hope for the future, there are a lot of improvements so far. I mean, compared to like 2.0 to now 3.0, we have a lot of improvement that is really improving the game, but not that much. But I really wish there gonna be a lot more improvement. I hope you understood my rambling a little bit, and see you guys again in the next video.